Hey guys, I'm Johnathon Banks, former IBO Cruiserweight Champion of the World, and I'm on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show.
Welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor, and if you are looking to hear from the hottest newsmakers in boxing, you found the right place. Over the past several weeks, we've done in-depth interviews with Deontay Wilder, Erickson Lubin, Teofimo Lopez, Regis Prograis, Keith Thurman, just to name a few. And in a few minutes, you're going to hear from Johnathon Banks, the new trainer of Gennady Golovkin, who's going to talk to us about how it happened and why it happened and what he's doing in the gym right now to help rejuvenate Golovkin's career. Before Johnathon Banks, you're also going to hear from our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, who's got another report for us from the United Kingdom. And batting leadoff, as always, will be our expert analyst, Travis Hartman. He's a professional boxer, trainer, and promoter from Osborne, Missouri, now living and training in Orlando, Florida. I think he's got a fight coming up next month. Rizwaan Zahid's a boxing journalist from Toronto. John J. Raspanti's chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com. And John and I wrote Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy, which was an Amazon bestseller. And I want to start by giving some love to the Ringside Boxing Show's house fighter, Ruben Villa IV, who is trained by Garcia Boxing, our sponsor. Ruben fought in the main event Friday night on ShowBox against a really rugged, relentless, and awkward Ricardo Mayorga kind of an opponent, Luis Alberto Lopez, who turns out is from the same hometown as Ricardo Mayorga. Ruben won a 10-round unanimous decision. Showtime's broadcast team thought Ruben Villa won 9 of the 10 rounds. The judges at Ringside saw it closer than that. They had it 98-92, 97-93, 96-94, all for Ruben Villa. So Ruben moves up to 16-0. He's just 22 years old, and he's also moving up in the featherweight rankings. I know Thompson Boxing was figuring he could crack the top 10 after this, but they're also in no big rush with him. Like I said, he's only 22. So I thought this guy was a great test for Villa at this point in his career. Really durable, very unpredictable, quick on his feet, fast hands, swung from the heels, didn't have much balance, and Ruben used a lot of his skills he developed as the winner of 15 national tournaments as an amateur, including 2 national Golden Glove championships. What he lacks is a knockout punch. He only has 5 KOs. So I think the ShowBox team said it best. It's going to be really interesting to see how far he can go as a brilliant boxer with a fabulous defense and limited power, all of which Ruben Villa has. Great job, Garcia Boxing, Sam and Max Garcia, Dean Hamilton, and congrats from the Ringside Boxing Show to Ruben Villa IV, RV4, who was known as Dracula during his amateur days. Okay, let's segue to the biggest fight of the weekend, where Julian Williams pulled off a significant upset over Jarrett Hurd, who was undefeated and defending 2 super welterweight title belts. Williams knocked Hurd down in the second round, and he won a unanimous decision. The scores were 115-112 twice and 116-111, close scorecards. Williams is a guy who got TKO'd by Jermall Charlo the first time he fought for a world title, and probably because of that, he was underestimated, not only by the boxing public, but also maybe by Jarrett Hurd. Riz, there's a rematch clause, and Hurd says he wants to fight Williams again. Would you expect a different result the next time you see one? What happened? What happened to Jarrett Hurd?
I mean, J-Rock obviously he definitely looks much better as a fighter than he did a couple years ago. He's definitely matured. He looked in phenomenal shape. Hurd can definitely obviously correct things, and like you said, he probably overlooked him a little bit. And if he wants an immediate rematch, you probably already saw what he didn't do well. Even when he got knocked down, he's kind of against the ropes and he was a little off balance, and he didn't seem tremendously hurt or anything. But there's definitely a lot of holes in Hurd that if we didn't see it before, we definitely see it now. And that's why I think maybe it was such a surprise to see Lara kind of go more toe-to-toe with with Hurd because, seeing the holes that we expected Lara to expose, J-Rock actually showed a little more last night. He's getting in and out, not a lot of head movement from Hurd. He comes forward a lot, but side to side, it doesn't really work well. It's more just north-south, straight in and out. And, he was getting tagged every time he was moving in. When he was kind of getting laid back, Julian Williams would land and then move back out. So he did a tremendous job about that last night. And I figured, Hurd probably saw what he wasn't doing, what he needs to do. So I don't think it's absurd to think that he'll come back and win a rematch. Usually, and that's what happens usually with the rematch. The onus is on, if you're Julian Williams, I'm sure he saw it and thought, okay, yeah, there's probably a couple things I can fix. But I mean, if you look at the scorecards, I think 8-4 was pretty reasonable, as was 7-5. And if I'm Hurd, I'm thinking there's definitely a few things I can switch and probably steal a couple of those rounds. And on top of that, we've seen, Williams has been knocked out before, and Hurd is a pretty big puncher. And he wasn't able to drop Julian at all because he wasn't able to land, I think, as much as he thought he would, and he didn't use his jab at all last night. So I'm sure he's looking at things and thinking what he can improve upon. Now I've heard that he was really struggling to make weight this time. We always looked at Hurd as a massive guy, and we said numerous times, how does he fit in at 154 pounds? And maybe we're getting the answer that he can't anymore. I heard some murmurs that he shed something like 24 pounds in the last 10 days, or in the last 2 weeks. Travis can speak upon this a little more, but, a lot of fighters can cut, 8 to 10 pounds, overnight, no problem, just by, cutting out water and other things. But that's a lot of weight. 24 pounds in a couple of weeks is a lot for a guy who's already a pretty big guy, right? He's not he's not someone who's kind of, that's his walk around weight or anything like that. That's a massive amount to cut. And eventually it just takes its toll. And we've seen that a lot with big guys who look good at a certain weight because they're so big at that weight. And eventually they're just struggling to make weight, and they kind of get, I wouldn't say exposed a little bit, but you definitely see some holes in their game. I think last night's fight really reminds me a little bit of Sergio Martinez and Kelly Pavlik many years ago. You had the really big fighter, against the guy who's smaller and people think he might be overpowered, but because he's the athlete who's just in significantly better shape, and he's doing everything correctly and he's learned from his mistakes, he was getting in and out, and the taller, bigger puncher was not able to capitalize because he just looked sluggish. And I think a lot of that I think is just a weight cut. So it'll be interesting to see if Hurd moves up. If he does, all of a sudden that size advantage he has kind of goes out the window, right? At 160, Canelo and Golovkin and David Lemieux and all the other big middleweights, Hurd all of a sudden isn't a big guy anymore. He's kind of the average middleweight. But at 154, I mean, my thing is this: at 154, if Julian Williams was able to beat him, and Williams is obviously a solid fighter with a strong background, a Philly fighter. But if he was able to beat him, I think the other guys at 154 probably would be able to do the same thing. So I can't see it's not going to be enough for her just to, he just wants to run it back. And I got to see what his adjustments are, because I think, he can adjust to Williams. I don't think there's much more he can do to adjust to the weight anymore. I think he's simply outgrown the division. And, it's not like, we hear Teofimo Lopez thinking, I'm going to move up soon enough. Well, he's fighting guys who are still well beneath him, and he's still, as a much younger fighter and a smaller, he's also just still growing. He's a younger guy. As you get older, it's harder to put off that weight, and I think we can all attest to that. For Hurd, I just don't see him being able to comfortably make that weight anymore. It's just going to be harder and harder for him. And if he gets away with it this time, soon enough he's going to have to go up to middleweight. But we'll see what happens with the rematch first.
John, you not only saw that fight, but you also saw some of these undercard fights, some of these lesser fights. A lot of people were pretty surprised 5 months ago when Isaac Dogboe lost his WBO super bantamweight title to Emanuel Navarrete. Dogboe was a world champion since 2016, and he'd successfully defended his title 4 times. He really looked like the real deal. But Navarrete proved it wasn't a fluke in the rematch. He made it a lopsided fight, and he finished with a 12th round TKO. And then in the main event of that same show, Miguel Berchelt also won a rematch, defended his 130-pound title with a 6-round knockout, TKO over Francisco Vargas. What stuck out for you about these two fights?
Well, with the Navarrete-Dogboe fight, Dogboe was talking a lot about the rematch and saying that he had a lot of issues going on leading into the first fight. He had tons of excuses, and that's always, to me, always troubling. And I'm not saying that he wasn't being honest, but I'm sure there was some truthfulness to what he was saying, but he had probably 20 excuses because what happened in the first fight. And the biggest problem he had going into the rematch was the same problem that he had in the first fight, which was Navarrete is just so much taller, and his reach is so much. You know, we're talking 5 inches and 8 inches here, and that is tough. And he had a plan to get under the punches. But, you know, Emanuel Navarrete he came into the first fight basically as a guy that nobody even heard of. You know, he's 26-0 with 22 knockouts. And sometimes those kind of records can be like a mirage. You're not sure what it means. But he fought basically the same fight that he fought the first fight. He just stuck his jab in Dogboe's face and then avoided him and kept him off balance and just pummeled him. You know, just clubbed him. As the fight went on, it got to the point where I was just asking myself, if I was his father, why he wouldn't stop it. And then I actually had the volume down most of the time. And then I turned it up, and the commentators were talking about it themselves, the dynamic. It's another thing Travis could talk about having your father in the corner and trying to decide when to stop a fight when your son is getting killed out there, as he said in one of the Rocky movies. That would definitely be tough. But he looked just, as I said in my article, and I hated writing this, he looked kind of like a zombie later in the fight. You know, he was staggering, and the guy has so much heart. You know, when you see somebody like that, you just feel bad. I did, but there's just no getting around it. I mean, he could never beat Navarrete. It wouldn't matter unless he had a gun, like I said. I mean, their styles, the tools that Emanuel Navarrete brings into the fight, just too much. And I didn't get to see a lot of the second fight, Dennis, but I saw some because I was writing an article on Dogboe and Navarrete. But I figured that it would go that way because Vargas, being 34 years old, I just didn't think he could win a rematch, and that's the way it went. But the Navarrete-Dogboe fight, it was one of those ones that you watch you're supposed to watch it with no emotion or whatever, and just watch it because you're writing about it. But it was very difficult, as I said, because on one hand you're admiring the guy's guts, but on the other hand you're saying, look, as a fight goes on, and you know about boxing, you know this is how guys get hurt. You know, when they just keep on taking blow after blow, and you're getting into round 10, round 11. Hell, I mean, I can go back years and years. I remember a fighter by the name of Johnny Owen who got knocked out and died a few hours later. He just took so much punishment, and then he just collapsed, and he was a smaller guy too. So finally, when the fight was over, it was like, oh my God. And Dogboe seems okay, but that one was really tough. And I got to say this about Williams. That was really, let me just say this, that was really an inspirational fight. I mean, I think he was more motivated than Hurd. I do. I think Hurd figured he'd just outmuscle him. But the thing that's bothered me about Jarrett Hurd from the beginning is his defense is very, very leaky. And you can't just keep out-toughing guys. You know, eventually you're going to run into somebody who's going to figure you out in a sense, and you're not going to be able to get him out of there. And I think that's what happened. You know, he takes way too many punches as far as I'm concerned. And you can't last in boxing by taking all those shots. He obviously needs to work on his defense. He doesn't need to work on his toughness, just on his defense. But I was really happy for Julian Williams because he was mocked and ridiculed after getting knocked out. And that's the thing about boxing, you know, guys. I mean, it's an individual sport. I mean, you got your trainer and you got your team, but you're the guy that's still got to go in there when you're telling everybody, look, I learned, I'm better now, I did this. You got to perform, and he did it. So much much applause and cheering goes to Julian Williams for just a great performance yesterday.
Travis, you just got done watching the Williams upset of Hurd, so it's fresh in your mind. What were your impressions?
I just wanted to say that I think John was exactly right, that Julian Williams fought an inspired fight, and you could tell. It's like he had something to prove out there. He wanted to prove that one loss doesn't make or break a professional fighter these days, and he said that in his post-fight press conference, and as a fighter myself, I agreed with that. I think a lot of the times that we write fighters off when they're undefeated and they get beat, we kind of write them off like, oh, maybe they weren't as good as we thought. And I think the fact that Julian Williams came out there, worked his butt off. I believe he won 5 or 6 fights leading up to this after the knockout loss, and proved that he can be in that division and he can be a force to reckon with. However, I will say this, that it makes sense now after Riz. I was going to ask if Jarrett Hurd was having problems making weight, because Jarrett Hurd is a massive guy. I think we all see that. There was a size difference. He's just so big for that weight class. And it makes sense now that I think that he was struggling to make weight, because he looked unmotivated to me. He looked a little ho-hum, a little too calm, and a little sluggish in moments. So I think that it definitely was a combination of both. I think it was a combination of Julian Williams being extremely inspired, extremely prepared, extremely hardworking. And I think Jarrett Hurd, I don't think he took him lightly. I just don't think Jarrett Hurd showed up with the body to get this done, meaning I think he zapped himself trying to make weight. And I can tell you for a fact, when you're trying to make weight and you're sucking down that much weight, you start focusing on making the weight instead of focusing on the fight and focusing on being able to do a lot of different things. So when you're thinking about the weight, which it sounds like Jarrett Hurd was, I think that has a big deal to do with it. So I'm going to say that he's probably going to rematch Julian Williams, and I think he's going to take his weight cut a little more serious this time, showing that I think he had a major effect in him. I actually favor Jarrett Hurd in the rematch to beat Julian Williams, because I think Jarrett Hurd does have what it takes. I just think he wasn't the better man last night, and that's kind of how at the end of the day, as fighters in this singular sport, you have to chalk it up as that sometimes. Sometimes the guy was just better than you today, and I think that's what happened. I think without a single doubt that Julian Williams fought a perfect fight. He fought an inspired fight, and he was the better man last night, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. He gave an inspiring performance, and he gave a fight that I think all of us want to see that rematch, just because it was such an exciting fight on both sides. Even though Hurd, I don't think, was 100%, meaning that he'd sucked his body weight down so much that I don't think his body was responding how he wanted it to, he still put up a gutsy performance. I mean, the guy wasn't giving the title to Julian. I mean, Jarrett Hurd tried his butt off. I mean, he worked his butt off. He took so many shots, and yet he still kept coming. So all the credit to both of those guys for putting on an amazing performance. But to be honest, I think Jarrett Hurd will rematch this guy because it was his first loss as a pro. I think he wants to avenge that. But I think after that, I would be very shocked to see him back at 154, because I always thought he was massive. I mean, he's just massive. He's got broad shoulders. He's got a big head. He doesn't look like a super welterweight to me at 154 at all. So I don't know how he's ever made that weight class, because he's massive. But they put on a great show, guys, and I definitely want to see it again. I think that the Julian Williams story is an amazing one. Like he said in the post-fight, he was just like everybody. And even the experts kind of wrote him off after he got demolished by Charlo in like 5 or 6 rounds. Everybody really wrote him off because he was untouchable before that. He was undefeated. And then Charlo just obliterated him pretty much. So it's a great comeback story, and I think Julian Williams will keep doing well. But honestly, it's crazy. I feel like I'm taking credit from him, but I wouldn't favor him in the rematch. I think Jarrett Hurd would beat him in the rematch, because Jarrett Hurd knows what to do, knows how to fight, and I think this time he'll probably take his weight cut a little more serious, because I think his body, it showed to me, he just looked sluggish, and he looked tired in the later rounds. So I think that had a lot to do with it, as well as an inspired performance by Julian Williams.
Man, if that's true that he was 24 pounds overweight 2 weeks ago, that is massive. Oh, my God.
That's absurd, yeah.
Yeah, it's absurd. Okay, so we got another rematch coming up June 23rd. That's a Sunday. Tony Harrison is going to be fighting Jermell Charlo. That's a PBC fight. We'll see it on Fox. Harrison pulled off a big upset, Riz, over Charlo in December, won a unanimous decision. And he took away Charlo's WBC super welterweight crown and also his O. Charlo was 31-0 coming into that fight. Harrison has losses in his career to to both Jarrett Hurd, who TKO'd him in 9 rounds in 2017, and here's what I was thinking, Travis, before, Willie Nelson, who stopped him in 9 rounds in 2015. So what everybody is wondering is whether Harrison's win over Charlo was a fluke. Riz, do you think it was, and do you expect Charlo to take this rematch?
What I do think is, though, I think this is a lot of karma. I think this is what happens when both Hurd and Charlo, and I'm not whoever's blame it was. I mean, that's a whole different thing. But they delayed the fight from happening, right? That's the fight that people wanted to see, and they delayed it, and both of them got upset within like a 3-month span. So I think that's a lot of karma. And I'm happy for the Julian Williams and Harrison, because both of those guys were just they're just kind of creeping under the radar, right? And where everyone's talking about these two fighting each other, and they're professional. They went about their business and they pulled off the upsets. So I mean, the first fight, that being said, the first fight was really close, and I think most people thought Charlo won, and you expect the better athlete to and the better, and let's say, I think we'll say he's the more talented fighter to be able to pull off the win in the rematch. But that being said, I don't think he's overlooking him this time around. I think he's going to come up with a statement, but I'm hoping, I don't think, let's say he wins, let's say Charlo wins, and then Hurd wins his own rematch. That fight is kind of back in play. But I think at this point they now learn their lesson, and they're not going to be waiting now. And for whatever reason it was, whether it was more money or whatever it was, I don't think they're going to be doing that anymore, because clearly karma definitely had a factor here, and I hope they learn their lesson. But I think you got to think that both guys are going to win the rematch, and just because I think both guys are just more naturally talented. I mean, if you go back when Roy Jones lost to Montel Griffin, even though he was disqualified, the scorecards were close at that time, and Roy was definitely not, him. He definitely, you could tell he overlooked. He definitely overlooked Montel Griffin a little bit. In the rematch, though, he said, "Okay, I'm putting doubt, like I'm ending all doubt about this." And if you go back, you guys remember, Paul Williams and Carlos Quintana, same thing. First fight, undefeated guy. Quintana went in and out, was just more prepared. And, Paul Williams, people were like, well, maybe he's overrated, yada, yada. And he was like, okay, let's do an immediate rematch. And he ends it the way a champion's supposed to end it, first round knockout. I'm not saying we're going to get a first round knockout from Charlo, but I do think that he's going to correct his mistakes, and I do think he's going to put on a statement. Because I just think there's a sense of, when the fighters, it's one thing if everyone else is buying to the Kool-Aid, but when the fighters themselves are doing it, then it becomes a problem, because that buys into their prep, that buys into their mentality. It ruins a lot of things. And I think Hurd to a lesser extent, but I think that's what happened to him yesterday as well. I think he definitely could have fought better. He could have popped out his jab. I think he thought that, all right, well, Williams has already been knocked out before, so I'm just going to go and knock him out too. And the ironic thing is, Williams lost to Charlo, so Hurd probably thought that, and Harrison's lost to Hurd, so Charlo probably thought that, I can just blow him out too, just like Hurd did. And both of them suffered a loss because of it. So I think karma had a massive factor here, but I do think that both guys will win the rematch, and hopefully that sets up a fight for both of them, ideally at the end of the year, or at least early 2020, because there's absolutely no reason for fights to have a delay. Like there's just none. You can't tell me there's about this marination, and like there's absolutely no reason. I think a fight, if it's as big as it is, it's not going to get bigger. I don't think if Joshua and Wilder fight now, it was bigger than it would have been a year ago. I think in this day and age, when when we get our access to information, access to everything quicker than ever, and that's why people binge watch things, people have less patience. And I don't think I think this is where boxing still really has to grow up and understand that the younger fans don't really care about waiting. It's about now, and the longer they wait to make things happen, the more fans are going to lose. So I think karma played a factor, but I do think this ends up, funny enough, with both fighters losing their fights. I think that actually does end up setting up a Hurd-Charlo fight at the end of this year or early next year.
Huh. Yeah. Travis, I'm going to go back to you real quick because you got to go train. You tipped us off last week about Pacquiao-Thurman. He said it was apparently a goal for July 20th. That confirmation came on Saturday. The stakes are really high in this fight, I think. Pacquiao gets hammered. It's probably the end of the line for him, and Thurman certainly can't afford to lose to old Manny Pacquiao. What do you see happening in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when Pacquiao finally settled on who he wanted to fight, because Pacquiao's at the point to where he can still kind of pick who he wants to fight, essentially, because he's a big draw still. And I think this is a good fight for Pacquiao, because Thurman, by all means, didn't look impressive in his last fight. And I think Manny Pacquiao looked very impressive in beating a young former champion. So I think it's a great fight. I think the odds opened up as a narrow favorite for Thurman, but I think this is a winnable fight for Manny Pacquiao. But I also think that we're going to see a different and a more inspired Keith Thurman, because this is easily Keith Thurman's biggest fight of his career. Even though he's been a world champion and defended that title multiple times now, I still think that beating a legend is going to be huge for him. And I think he's going to step up to the plate, and I think he's going to really train his butt off. I think we're going to see the best Keith Thurman. I have to roll with Keith Thurman by decision here. I think he has what it takes, and I think that he will be inspired. And I think Manny Pacquiao is going to give us the best Manny Pacquiao that he can. But I think right now, I think Manny Pacquiao is about 80% of the Manny Pacquiao that we all know during his peak. So even with that being said, he's going to put up one hell of a fight, and I think this is a great fight. I'm happy with this fight. I think that 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao is still trying to go for these young champions, and by all means, Thurman's 30 or 31. He's still young. I mean, in regards to that, he still has plenty left in him. But I think it's a great fight, and I'm excited about it. Can Manny Pacquiao win? Yes, he can win, because anything can happen in boxing. They don't fight the fights on paper. Essentially, this last weekend, we saw Jarrett Hurd, who was a 5 or 6-1 favorite over Julian Williams, and look what happened. He lost. So we all know that the odds don't necessarily mean anything. So just because Thurman is a favorite doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. So they actually have to fight that fight still. And that's why boxing is a beautiful sport, and it's brutal at the same time, because you can be a favorite all you want. You can be winning 12 rounds, and in that last 5 seconds of that 12th round, you can get knocked out and lose that fight. It's one of the only sports to where essentially a Hail Mary can lose you a fight just like that. You can be up 20 points in a basketball game, and there's no chance that one shot's going to let you lose. You can be up 15 points, 14 points in a football game, and there's no one possession or one play that's going to lose you that match. But in boxing, you can be up 11 rounds to 0, and that 12th round comes around, that guy can knock you out and win the fight. So that's why boxing is beautiful for the fans to watch that, because an upset can always happen. And Manny Pacquiao can punch, and we can see that Keith Thurman got hurt, massively hurt against José Lopez. So we know that Thurman can be hurt too. So that's why it's a great fight. I'm going to go with Thurman by a narrow edge, but I think it's an amazing fight.
Okay, have a good run. Thanks for squeezing this in, buddy.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Hey, Travis.
Okay, John, we lost 2 good ones this weekend. Hall of Fame judge and longtime HBO unofficial ringside scorer Harold Lederman died of cancer Saturday. He was 79. Harold made 3 or 4 appearances on the Ringside Boxing Show over the years, and nobody loved boxing more than this guy, and you could hear it every time he turned on his mic on HBO. And also, we lost Bert Cooper. Man, he was just 53 years old. I can't even believe that, when he died Saturday from pancreatic cancer. Both these guys died from cancer. This is a guy who fought Evander Holyfield, Michael Moorer for world titles, and he came pretty close in both fights. He fought George Foreman, Ray Mercer, Mike Weaver, Riddick Bowe, Corey Sanders, Carl the Truth Williams, Larry Donald, Chris Bird. Matter of fact, 3 years ago or something, he fought Luis Ortiz. What are you going to remember about Harold Lederman and Bert Cooper?
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind about Harold Lederman, first thing was what a nice guy he was. Met him in Oakland during an Andre Ward fight, just walked over him. He had a big smile on his face, and he seemed like he always had a smile on his face. Yeah. Introduced myself. He acted like he'd known me forever. We talked for a little while. Just a very down-to-earth, super nice person. And then the second thing that popped into my brain was when Jim Lampley would say, "So how do you have the fight, Harold?" He'd go, "All right, Jim." Remember, he'd always say that same thing.
I got to tell you.
Yeah, that's right. So those kind of things, you think of that, because that was his catchphrase, All right, Jim. Yeah, let me tell you. So it's sad, but great memories with Harold. Great guy. Just a phenomenal boxing person. He's in the International Boxing Hall of Fame where he belongs. So that, like I said, bittersweet. Bert Cooper, oh my God! The first thing that popped in my brain about him was how close he was to being heavyweight champion. I thought about the Holyfield fight. You guys remember he had Holyfield staggering against the ropes. Looked like one more punch was going to knock him down or out. He looked, Holyfield, if I remember correctly, looked like he was out on his feet, but that amazing resiliency that Holyfield possessed. He came back and knocked out Cooper, and then when he fought Michael Moorer, he had Moorer in big trouble, and Cooper ended up getting brutally knocked out. So that's the thing. I mean, you to get so close and then be so tough on top of it. And he fought way too long. You know, the Ortiz fight, I think it was longer. I think he was like 45 years old when he fought Ortiz. Not that long ago, considering he was 53, and he lost his last 3 fights, I believe. And it's just he hung around too long, and it's kind of a bummer. But that would be the hardest part if I was Burt Cooper during my lifetime. Would be, God, I was so close to being heavyweight champion. He had some skills, but he also had some demons. But, you know, he's going to go down as somebody that we think of when we think of those fights. So, yeah, it's kind of rough. But, again, back to Harold, affable guy, Dennis, you know, just a regular guy. And when he would walk up to anywhere from when we were at the Oracle, not the Oracle, at the Coliseum. It's not called the Coliseum anymore, but that's where they had the Andre Ward fight. Everybody would call him out, and he'd wave and stop and get his picture taken. We need nicer people like that in boxing, and he was one of the best. That's how I'll always remember him.
I'm going to try and put together a special edition Ringside Boxing Show that I'll send over to the Grueling Truth Network, probably middle of the week, and I'll replay a classic interview that Irish Joe and I did with Harold Letterman a few years back.
Fantastic.
I mean, you guys will all be able to hear just the enthusiasm in his voice and the love he had for boxing. Riz, last week, Riz, you mentioned a potential matchup that I think was strictly in the rumor stage at that point. But Thursday, there was a report that Oscar De La Hoya has initiated talks with Errol Spence's people about a possible fight with Canelo. Matter of fact, sounds like they offered Spence $20 million if Spence is willing to make the 13-pound jump to welterweight, from welterweight to middleweight. Mikey went up 12 pounds to face Spence, and we saw how that worked out for Mikey. Spence was asked about going up 2 weight divisions to fight Canelo, and his response was, well, we'll see. It could happen. That doesn't sound real enthusiastic. It'd be interesting and glamorous if this match is made, I think. But is Spence just showing some bravado here? He doesn't really want that fight, does he?
You know what? I think he's interested in it. I think he's pretty frustrated. Well, I mean, if you look at Thurman and Pacquiao being made, to be honest, if I'm Spence, I'd be pretty pissed off, right? If you're considered the top 2 guys in that division, and let's take away Crawford from this equation only because he's not with PBC. So let's just looking at the only PBC guys. I think we'll all agree that Spence is the best welterweight amongst them, right? Or at least of what we've seen. So first Pacquiao fights Broner, doesn't deserve the payday. Thurman comes off a horrible win against Osasito Lopez, probably doesn't deserve that payday. And here's Spence taking on, let's say, the tougher fights, right? Mikey Garcia, size, I understand he's a smaller guy, but, his skills is way higher than pretty much most guys in that division. And now it seems like he's going to fight Porter for, again, a fraction of the money that Thurman would probably get. So I think Spence is serious because Spence, I think, is just that confident in himself. I've never seen, there's not one moment of Spence's career where I looked at him and I thought he's unsure of what he's doing right now. And which is crazy because, and I've said this numerous times, I was completely wrong about him as an amateur. Because I saw him in the Olympics and I was not impressed by him at all. I saw him get, I wouldn't say rocked, but I saw him get moved by, some hard punches with headgear. And I thought there's no way this guy's going to crack it as a pro, and here we are. So I think he's very frustrated that he's not, getting the more deserved paydays because he's going through the harder fights and he's arguably considered the best. Pacquiao walks into the ring with him and then ends up fighting someone else. So I think he is serious about potentially moving up to fight Canelo. And partially, number one, he has the skills. He's not, I don't think he's going to go there and try to outslug Canelo. That'd be insane. But he's a southpaw. He knows how to be slick when need be. But again, I just think he's that confident in his ability. And I think he also understands criticism. I think there's some people who said, well, you know what, Mikey moved up 2 divisions to fight you, so why can't you move up? And usually everyone's response to that is, no, I'm not moving up. Where his response is like, yeah, it's a good point. Sure, I think I might do that. and it's just it's refreshing, I think. That being said, what Oscar said they offered, and then there's obviously networks at play, and then there's other things. But I think it's probably leveraging him a little bit, and I think we will. There's high potential we might see that fight eventually. But I think right now, if Spence is fighting Porter, and it seems like Thurman and Pacquiao is now booked, it's logical that we see the winners fight each other, and probably towards the end of the year. And then Spence will finally get that big kind of money fight he deserves. And I think from there, then potentially, if there's not a Crawford fight to be made, then potentially he might move out to fight Canelo. But I think that fight is in play. I don't think right away, because obviously Canelo has a couple other fights at middleweight that might happen. But I don't think I think we see it. I won't see it happening right away, but I think it's on the docket. But I think Spence is serious about it. Spence is not a he's not someone who talks a lot. And the people who don't talk a lot, when they do talk, you got to listen, because they're not full of it, right? Like the guys who, John just brought up, Dogboe, he had a lot to say before, before last night. And when it came time to the fight, there was not much that was happening there, right? He wasn't saying much. He wasn't, he was getting completely outclassed. So the guys who don't say much are the ones who are scariest, and that's why Spence to me has always been that guy. He is the he's the opposite of most boxers nowadays. Everyone on Instagram and the idea of social media and fame, and he's just there. He's like, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to show my class, and I'm going to win. So I do think he'll end up. I think he's interested in the Canelo fight, but if they're offering $20 million, and I think he sees now there's at least a roadmap to him to fight Pacquiao, which will probably net him $15 million or $20 million, probably himself, and he wouldn't have to leave PBC or anything like that, and probably have to pay some money out of his pocket otherwise. I think now he sees a logical step to make that money that he deserves. But I don't think the Canelo fight is out of the question. I think it's very much in play, and I do give Spence a very good shot in that fight.
Okay. Last topic here. Canelo Alvarez's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, he says he believes that when it's all over, Canelo is going to be remembered as the greatest fighter in Mexican history. Julio Cesar Chavez piped up right away, and he said that Canelo might eventually crack the top 10, but won't make the top 3 or 4. John, let me reel off a few names from Mexican boxing history, and you tell me where you think Canelo's ceiling is going to fall. Julio Cesar Chavez, Salvador Sanchez, Ruben Olivares, Juan Manuel Marquez, Daniel Zaragoza, Eric Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera, Ricardo Lopez, Carlos Zarate, Alfredo Zamora, Chiquito Gonzalez, Vicente Saldivar, Kid Azteca, Juan Zarita, Baby Arizmenda, Chuco Castillo, Pepino Cuevas, Lupe Pintor, Bazooka Limon, Rafael Herrera. That's 20 right there. Where's Canelo going to fit on this list when it's all over?
Well, Julio was being very honest, and I think he's accurate. I think Canelo will definitely break the top 10. I could see him around 6 or 7, maybe 8, something around there. But the top 3 that you mentioned, Chavez, Salvador Sanchez, Ruben Olivares, no. He can't get there unless he has to remain undefeated the rest of his career, I think. But he's not at that level of those guys. But, the fact that Reynoso said that's not a surprise. He's his trainer, and he's like his publicist in a sense, and his promoter in a way too. Trainers are nowadays. So he has to feel that way about his fighter, and he knows his fighter's going to read that. So that's all good. But to get to that point that he said, he's going to have to beat everybody, like I said, and do it in a way that's dominant. And Canelo doesn't really dominate the top guys. If we think back to his 2 fights with Golovkin and the recent one with Jacobs, he won one, he had a draw, and then he beat Jacobs too, so he's 2-0 with the draw. Very debatable. Earlier fights in his career, Austin Trout, for example, Lara, a lot of people thought he lost. And that doesn't bode well for somebody to break the top 5 of a list. But, you know, he's lost only once officially. He's improved a lot. He's in his peak right now. So if he's going to make inroads, it's now. In the next 2 or 3 years, I would say it's going to happen. But give Chavez credit for being honest. And then also Chavez, I'm sure, remembers that Canelo cleaned his son's clock when they fought, which, of course, wasn't really a surprise. But I don't think he's holding that against Canelo because that was no surprise, like I said. But, you know, like I said, 6 or 7, perhaps, something like that. Maybe 5 if he keeps doing. But to crack those, to beat those guys, those are legends we're talking about. You know, Salvador Sanchez never lost. You know, Ruben Olivares was so incredible of a fighter. Us old guys all remember him. And Julio Cesar Chavez was just tremendous. So
Salvador Sanchez, oh my God, you know?
Man, he was, yes, and it's just amazing. So if Canelo makes it up to the 5th position on that list, you should be very proud of that, considering those names that are in front of him. So again, very honest on Julio's part, very political on the trainer's part, but Canelo isn't there, and I don't think he likely will never be breaking the top 5 of that list.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing about Chavez Sr. is I think he takes it very, very personally when anyone says that somebody's going to be the number one Mexican fighter besides him.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
All right. Hey, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti are the official oracles of the Ringside Boxing Show. They're with us every week, and they always give it to you straight. Thank you, fellas. Great job, as always.
You bet. Take care, guys.
All right. Paul McLaughlin, our British correspondent, is warming up in the bullpen. He's up next, and then John and I are going to be talking to Gennady Golovkin's brand-new trainer, Johnathon Banks, from GGG's training camp in Big Bear Lake. It's all ahead. We'll be right back in just a minute.
If you like the Ringside Boxing Show, you're going to love the website, ringsideboxingshow.com.
And on 1 coming up. 139.10, you're out. The winner and new champion, Daffy Duck. I'm not the one to complain, Mr. Wefferly, but I thought you said no wuff stuff.
Hi there, it's Paul McLaughlin with your weekly roundup of everything going on in the UK boxing scene at the moment. Well, we start with Friday night's action at the Nottingham Arena, JD's Next Gen Bill. And Jordan Gill lost his WBA International Featherweight title after he retired against Enrique Tinoco on Friday night. Gill was dropped 3 times by body shots from the Mexican challenger before David Caldwell, his trainer, pulled his man out after 8 rounds. A lively opening round saw both fighters commit to attacks, with Gill boxing behind his long jab and Tinoco marching forward, throwing punches from every angle. The pair took turns to switch stances in the second as Gill targeted the body and head while the aggressive challenger landed a decent right. Gill battled back in the fourth and the Mexican urged him on, but a punishing right hook to the body in the next sent the 24-year-old to the canvas for the second time in the fight. The Mexican came charging out in the sixth, and after trying his luck with an optimistic uppercut and overhand right, tested Gill's chin with a heavy shot. The seventh went much about the same, and then Dave Caldwell pulled his fighter out after 8. We caught up with his trainer, Dave, after the fight.
Devastated for him. I wanted a fight like that for him. He needs fights like that for him. His first 16 fights, 17 fights, against nothing. And kids learn from real fights. And progressing each fight that he's been having lately, you know, there's been good fights for him, good learning fights for him. And tonight, it's another experience that he will make him a better fighter ultimately. He's 24 years old.
Elsewhere on that bill, Lee Wood secured an impressive stoppage win against Ryan Doyle to retain his Commonwealth featherweight title. Wood dominated the fight and had bloodied Doyle by the halfway mark before landing a stunning left hook, which left the former holder counted out on the canvas in the 10th. Here's what Lethal Lee had to say after the fight.
He's a tough kid, a very good fighter. Yeah, I think he's slightly underrated. He came at his best tonight, like I said he would, and like I said he'll fall short. But credit to him because it was an odd fight. Well, it could have been a lot harder, but I kept on the end. But he was game. He took some big shots. He was really fit. You can tell how fit he was because he took a lot of punishment throughout the fight. So I didn't want to keep trying too hard because you tried too hard and energy levels go down. So I kept relaxing, gave him a bit here and there. Didn't go through my gears too much because I tested him with a few and he didn't go. So I thought if I keep trying too hard, you're gonna gas out and look like an idiot. So just relax and it'll come. And as soon as I did relax and stop trying to get it, and it came.
And finally, Dillian Whyte is willing to face Tyson Fury next in a WBC final eliminator, but doubts whether the former world heavyweight champion would accept the fight. Whyte is already risking his #1 status with the WBC against Oscar Rivas on July the 20th at the O2. But WBC President Mauricio Suleiman has suggested the Brixton man could then be ordered to fight Fury for the right to become the mandatory challenger. A long-awaited fight with WBC champion Wilder has continued to elude Whyte, although he would welcome a showdown against Fury, insisting he has pursued him in the past. Here is what Fury's manager Frank Warren has to say about the whole story.
I've got to speak to Tyson. I had a chance to speak to Tyson about it, so we'll see where we go with it. But it is what it is. We'll see where it goes. Well, I don't understand with Dillian what's happened with him. I mean, his team get him into the he becomes #1 in the BO, #1 in the BC, and he's having to go through all this rather than get a straight shot. I don't know what's happening there. Somebody's obviously not doing their job and pushing for him, but that's his business. Fact of the matter is, I've got to speak to Tyson. Tyson's the lineal champion, and he's got his next 2 fights are nailed down. So we'll see what happens.
Right, that's your lot from me this week, guys. I'll be back next week with some more British boxing news. In the meantime, gloves up and protect yourselves at all times. Back to the studio.
Outstanding, Paul McLaughlin. Your boxing fans are having way too much fun over there in the UK. This is really a renaissance era over there. We're going to take one more quick break, and then Johnathon Banks is going to talk to John and me about how he's going to take GGG back to the mountaintop. See you in about 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the sweet science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Familton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken 2 boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com.
Yeah, I know him before, I know him before. I watch a lot of fights. I told you he has good experience with with old guys. I'm not too young. I feel like young, just my age different. I like his cool. Just right now for my next step, for my next fight, I don't have a lot of time. And I told you I believe him.
That was the voice of Gennady Golovkin discussing why he selected Johnathon Banks to become his new trainer after splitting with Abel Sanchez, who was his coach for 9 years. Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor, and today's featured guest is Johnathon Banks, a former IBO cruiserweight champion who previously coached Wladimir Klitschko and Cecilia Brækhus. And from what we understand, he was pretty surprised when he got an out-of-the-blue telephone call from GGG. Johnathon, thanks for joining us today. Always great to talk to you. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm great. It's always a pleasure to be on this show. I just really appreciate you guys, man. You guys are keeping the world ears full of boxing, which is always good.
You bet. You bet. Okay. So listen, I want to bring our listeners up to date on your career as a trainer. In 2012, you were still an active cruiserweight boxer when out of the wild blue yonder, your phone rings, and the voice on the other end is a future first ballot Hall of Famer who holds all 4 major title belts in the heavyweight division, hasn't lost a fight in 8 years, Wladimir Klitschko, who says, "Hey, Jonathan, you want to be my trainer?" And you said, "Sure." So you do that, and it goes pretty damn well. And then Klitschko retires, and then last week your phone rings again, and it's Golovkin, who's 38-1-1 and probably should be 40-0, and he's looking for a trainer, and he says he wants you to be the guy, and you say sure. So what I'm wondering is whether you feel a little bit like that park ranger up in Virginia who holds the Guinness Book of World Records for being struck by lightning 7 times. What was your reaction when you hung up the phone that day after getting that offer from Golovkin?
I don't know. It was more so of a wow factor. I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna be interesting. Let's see what transpires. And he wanted to work it. Let's work out. Let's see what chemistry we have, and so on and so forth. And that's how it all came about.
You know, what a lot of people are probably wondering about you is where you get the cojones to say yes to training 2 guys who already know their way around a boxing ring pretty damn well. After taking on Klitschko as a first-time trainer, did you lie in bed a few nights and say, oh, God, what am I going to teach this guy?
Well, Klitschko is different because I met him in 2004 with the late great Emanuel Stewart. And I met him was in L.A. when Emanuel was training him. And I was getting ready for my second fight, and he was getting ready for his comeback. So that's when we met, and we've been like around each other ever since. We've been close as we could be, and we formed a really good, like me and Vladimir at the time, we were family now. That's how our relationship is. So when he called me, I was just about to walk into the gym. I seen him call, and I said, "Yo, what's up?" And he said he needed a coach. I'm okay. I started thinking of some names. So I think it's a name. He said, No. Let me be clear. I want you to be my coach. I'm like, oh, all right. He said, what do you mean, all right? You ain't never coached somebody in your life. I said, I know. But you asked me, you told me you need me to do it. I said, okay. He said, you could do it. I said, yeah, I could do it. And he said, JB, listen, I trust you, and I take your word for it. If you're telling me you can do this, then I'm going to believe you. And I told him, I said, like I said, I can do it. And that's
where'd you get that kind of confidence?
In boxing, you don't walk up to your opponent and say, yeah, you go beat me, and then walk away. You don't do that.
Right.
Right. If you don't believe you could win, then there's no point in you going to the gym or even grabbing up. If you're going for a paycheck, just tell everybody, say, listen, hey, don't put your all into it. I'm only going for a paycheck. But I believe in myself. I believe I could do it. I didn't realize that I knew what I was doing until the first time ever holding hand pads. And he started hitting them. That's when I started realizing on what to do and how to do it. And it just started coming to me. Everything I saw from the late Emanuel Stewart, it just started flooding my head, flooding in my brain. And I started doing it.
Wow.
So you and Vlad were close, but from what I've read, you knew Golovkin only casually. It was kind of a hi, how you doing kind of relationship. It wasn't any deeper than that. So when Triple G and his team called you up, that must have been a staggering moment for you.
It was, it was, but it was more so of like, wow, they called me, that type of thing, and And he called, we talked, I answered, and I said, let's see what happens.
Okay. I'm going to play one more clip here. This is something Tom Loeffler said at the press conference with you and GGG.
There really wasn't a short list. Internally, we were talking about, again, when Gennady's been with someone for so long, it becomes a difficult situation to change. But Gennady said, let me talk to Johnathon Banks, and that was his list, And he made the decision before. There was another question about, I think it was Steve, did he work with Johnathon before? He made the decision to hire Johnathon before he even trained with him. It was just that chemistry, that feeling that he got from him. He knew, obviously, the work that JB did with Wladimir and with Cecilia. Cecilia naturally fought on Gennady's Cinco de Mayo show last year, and Cecilia was the co-feature, so they had some interaction there leading up to that fight, and there was no short list.
Really interesting. So, Johnathon, I'm just curious, it sounds like Tom kind of explained why Golovkin wanted you, and this is obviously quite a challenge. Do you feel like you and Golovkin just have basically connected right away and bonded?
I believe so. I believe so. I believe that we always, like I say, we always had a mutual respect for each other. That wasn't the problem. Every time we see each other, we talked for a short minute and kept going. So now it's time for us to have a serious conversation and talk for real. It's the same as always. He's an easygoing guy. I'm pretty easygoing, and that's how it works.
Interesting. Yeah, he said that he felt like
situation, but it wasn't nothing like this.
Okay. Golovkin said that he felt like he had stopped making progress. When he called, did he want to know what you thought you might be able to do to help? And if so, was that a challenging question to answer, considering the whole phone call was a surprise and you probably hadn't given the matter any real thought, or how did that go?
Well, first I answered the question that he said, when I was asked, can I do it? My question in return was, can I do it as far as am I capable, or can I do it as far as am I willing to? And they said both. So I said, yeah. I said, I believe so. So I asked him what he wanted. We got face to face. I asked him, I'm not about to tell you my vision. Tell me your vision. What do you want? And he said, he wants something different. He said the way he's fighting, he feel like he's fighting everybody the exact same way all the time. And he said it's working, but he don't feel the confidence no more in the ring because nothing's changing. He said he feels he needs something to change, and it's nothing changing. So he got to do something different to get a change. And I said I totally understand how you feel. A lot of the public will either not understand or ridicule, but when you're a fighter, even just an athlete, when you're going through something and your body's telling you need to do something different, and you don't listen to it, or you must listen to it, you must follow what you believe. Like everybody, when they follow what they believe, if they like it, they cheer for you. But if you follow something you believe and people don't agree with you, then they boo you. But the same thing that got them to love you is the same thing that's going to start booing you for. So that's that type of situation. He's following something he really believes. He believes he needs something different. He believes he wants something different. He believed that he couldn't get it where he was at, so he said, okay, it's time for me to move on to something different. He never said nothing negative about the previous people he was with. He didn't say anything negative about it. He just said he just wanted something new, something fresh, something different. That was it.
First, quick follow-up. You said his confidence. You said something about his confidence. Did that surprise you when Golovkin has been just destroying fighters during his entire career? He's only lost one fight, and as we said, it's very debatable whether he lost in that draw. Obviously, very debatable. Did that surprise you, or is that kind of how it goes when sometimes when you run into a few bumps in the road as a fighter and you just feel like, I got to do something different?
Well, I think all athletes are similar in one phase. They only regret when they don't follow their heart. When they make a decision and they're saying, you know what, I just feel it. I feel it's right. That's when they come up with all this regret. And it's the same thing with anything else. A lot of times instincts must kick in at some point of your life, of your career, and you must just go forward. Now, I don't know how long he's been feeling this way. He was feeling this way for quite some time. But again, I don't know how long. I don't know if it was 5 fights back, 2 fights back, 3 fights back. I don't know. But he said once he said he basically saying when the athlete's saying they want something new, they want something different. In other words, they want to shock their body because they can basically close their eyes and go through the same routine they've been doing. And that routine kind of gets boring to him. Now, I'm not saying that's what he said to me because he didn't. He never said that. Never said something about boringness. He just said he wanted something different, and it was time for him to get something different.
Understood.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Raspanti. We're talking to Johnathon Banks, the new trainer of Gennady Golovkin. Johnathon, a logical leap for us to make on being on the outside looking in is that maybe Golovkin, who is from Kazakhstan, might have consulted with Klitschko, another Eastern European. Vlad's from the Ukraine. Did Klitschko recommend you to GGG?
Wladimir was born in Kazakhstan. He was born in Kazakhstan. Coincidence, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I talked to Vlad when after I got the call. I talked to Vlad. He said I heard Triple G wanted you to work with him. I said, yeah, that's what I'm just hearing the news. He said, well, I think y'all be a good fit, and I wish you all the best. I'm like, thank you. That was all we said. He never said anything. He never alluded to fake talk or anything.
Interesting.
So, some people have watched his 2 fights with Canelo, and the conclusion that they've drawn is that he's losing something on his fastball. He's aging. Do you see that? Will you make adjustments for age with him, or is that all bogus?
I mean, you could have 25 people watch the same thing. You got 25 different scenarios.
Yeah.
Or 25. Well, these are our opinions and stuff like that. But so that's totally different. But question, will I change something because of his age, this and that? I mean, I can't say his age is a factor, but at the same time, I can't say his age is not a factor because that is his age, But for me, it's all about how you take care of yourself and your attitude going forward. So I don't foresee his age being the factor of his performance, but I don't foresee that.
What have you observed about him in the gym in the couple of weeks you've already been working with him?
He just got a lot of energy. He's just like ready, 100% ready to full throttle, go full throttle at everything. He just got he said he got a new inspiration, and he's looking forward to fighting and going forward. So I think for me, that's awesome.
Jonathan, do you think he could be hungrier now after the Canelo fight? I mean, with even he's done so well as a pro. He was an excellent amateur, obviously, and one of the best ever. Do you think it's possible that even at age 37, right, that he feels now that with what happened in the Canelo fight that he's really, really motivated to get Canelo in there one more time or whatever to really surprise some people and do really well?
100%. I agree.
Yeah.
And I that's what he's just, like I say, he just woke up with a new motivation. He's like in the gym. Oh my goodness! I'm like, dude, come on, man, you done now. He's like got all his energy every single day. You know, work. So, I mean, for me, I'm loving it.
You know, your headquarters is Detroit, and Gennady wants to continue to train at Big Bear, obviously, where you are. Was that a factor at all that you took under consideration when you were offered the trainer job, or were you in right away?
Like I said, the person I learned from, he was on the road all the time training fighters. So why would it be any different for me? I mean, Wladimir Klitschko's training camp was in Austria. So if I could pick Big Bear, California, or Austria, which one is closer to home? At least I'm in the States.
True. That's true.
You know, so like I look at it like as long as at least I'm in the United States, yeah, I'm cool. I'm home. At least I'm in the United States. But even if he said let's go out the country, then I mean, again, I wouldn't have no problem with that. If you wanted to train in Russia, I wouldn't have a problem with that because I know I know a lot of people over there now. So it's fine wherever he wants to train. So that's not a factor for me. No, this his attitude, this spirit he has, this he always want to work, want to keep working. That right there, like you can't replace that with anything. So as long as he keep having that, we'll train anyway.
Okay, you were at the Canelo fight last Saturday, and you won a unanimous decision over Daniel Jacobs. Were you impressed by Canelo?
To be honest, a lot of people will disagree, but to be honest, for Canelo to come up from such a smaller weight class, I'm impressed with anything he do with this weight class right now. How bold he walked towards these physically bigger guys.
Yeah.
Like how it baffles me. I'm like, this dude got nothing but balls. He's like pushing these dudes back. He's walking in the ring, the physically bigger guy, and I'm like, wow, it's just shocking to me.
Yeah.
No, it's shocking to me. Like I say, I take nothing away from Jacob. He did everything he felt he could do to defend himself and to win. Canelo, to me, Canelo did a little bit more. You know, he landed a few more bigger shots, going into the later round and starting off early. You know, Canelo was the only one looked like he wanted to stop he wanted a stoppage in the fight. You know, that's what he looked like. He looked like he really, really, really wanted to hurt this dude and to knock him down or something. That was his body language saying. Jacob's body language was saying that he's defending himself, that he's trying to defend his title, or he's trying to get the title, whichever one. You know, he wasn't. It was no sign of desperation. Even by the 8th round, there was no sign of desperation. You know, so I'm not. Again, I always been a fan of Jacob. So and I like the way he fights. You know, but Canelo to me was showing more that he really, really wanted this.
Yeah, exactly. So you were sitting there with Golovkin. You were watching it as a boxing fan too, because we all are. But I'm sure you were watching Canelo as a trainer as well, and thinking possibly about him fighting Golovkin again. Did you see some flaws in there that you might be able to exploit if Golovkin and him fight again?
I've seen some flaws when I was watching this first Triple G fight in the second one. So definitely.
I see. Okay. So this is a good one. I like this question, Jonathan, because this is quite a challenge working with a guy like Golovkin, I would think, because obviously he's accomplished so much. So what can you do? Let me rephrase this, because I remember when I was talking to Virgil Hunter a few years ago, and he brought in Amir Khan, who obviously has done pretty well. Didn't do so well the last couple of weeks, but we were talking about what you can do with a fighter who's done well, and he said, I can't change his style because basically that's his style, but I might be able to tweak a few things and help him. So is that what you're thinking with Golovkin? I mean, can you think you can make Golovkin better? Obviously, you think you could help him and make him better in some ways, but what are you hoping you'll see when he fights Steve Rolls on June 8th?
I'm just hoping I see something a little bit different. That's all. I'm not looking for better. I'm not looking for worse. I'm looking for just a little bit different because from what I was taught to look at a fight. Let's look at their natural ability. That's when you can pull out the talent. That's what they do naturally, and that's the goal for me. Is to see his natural ability, see what he does the most naturally, and allow him to do that a little bit more of that. Because since he does it naturally, and if you make him do it more and more, and make him do it a little bit faster and a little bit longer, a little bit faster, then it's going to become even more natural to him. And so you're not changing anything. You're just pulling out what's already there. So, and that's the goal. It's just to pull out what's already there, and so he can continue being successful.
Jonathan, Steve Rolls is definitely not Canelo, and he's not Jacobs. What do you expect him to bring to the table that night? What can fans expect to see from Steve Rolls that night?
Every Canadian that you never liked, that you did like, every style that you was impressed with and that you wasn't impressed with. Steve Rolls will bring everything he can because this is his one shiny moment. It's just about everything waiting to get a call about. Everybody wants a big moment in their career. This is his big moment. So there's nowhere in the world anybody with any type of common sense can underestimate this kid because he's coming. But he's right now, he's in the same position Buster Douglas was in and all them years ago. He's got a moment. And that's the one moment Buster Douglas had. You can't say nothing. Nobody can say nothing else how many times he defended it, how many times this. It doesn't matter because the one moment that he did have, he rose to the occasion. And that's how I look at Steve Rolls. This is his moment, Because if he don't do good at all, he may not ever get another call. But if he can come in and make it a good fight, then he's already set to be on the world stage again.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, very, very true, man. This could be a career changer for him. No doubt about it.
Most of.
Okay, last one for you. Last time we talked, you were also working with Cecilia Brækhus, and a lot of people rate her as the best female fighter in the world, pound for pound. Is she still with you, or are you still hoping to get Claressa Shields next?
Yes, me and Cecilia still working together, but I never said anything about Claressa Shields. I never said anything about that. Claressa Shields is the 160, and Cecilia's the 147.
Yep.
So, never said anything about I'm hoping to get Claressa Shields.
Yeah, I know. Clarissa's got nobody left, though. She fights them out. Except Cecilia.
Yeah, I feel like I say, I have nothing but 150% respect for Claressa Shields.
Yeah.
The things she's done in amateurs, the things she's done in the pros, I get where she's coming from, and I get, why she will want to fight with Cecilia, and I understand fighters want to fight. I get that, but Carissa's at 160, and I believe she's coming down to 154. And she wanted to come down to campaign at 154 and hopes that Cecilia will come up to 154. You know, but if Cecilia's out of shape completely, the highest she goes is 150. That's the highest. You know, so she's physically just smaller. But one thing when I do talk to Cecilia, if she really wants to fight, then what can I do to support my fighting? Sure. You know, that's all I could do. Because from what it seems like, Cecilia will fight anybody. You know, I've never heard her even back down from no challenge at all. You know, so it's not like she's you know, skeptical about fighting anyone. So she's just, that's the type of person she is. She'll fight anybody. So it's just a matter of, I'm assuming that it's just a matter of time before they put that one together.
Yep. Most trainers never coach a world champion, let alone a Hall of Famer. Johnathon Banks already has 2 of those on his resume. Wladimir Klitschko was first, and he's now working with Gennady Golovkin. Jonathan, congrats. Best of luck. And thanks once again for making some time for us today on the Ringside Boxing Show. Always a pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time for me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Johnathon Banks on the Ringside Boxing Show. Hey, do you like the Ringside Boxing Show? Do us a solid. Tell other boxing fans about this podcast. Help us grow. Also, if you haven't yet discovered the #1 website in the world for daily boxing news, you got something to do right this minute. Visit RingsideBoxingShow.com to find the biggest headlines and the best stories 365 days a year. We update it every single day. This should be your first stop every morning. Might be the only boxing site you need to visit all day long to get your boxing fix. RingsideBoxingShow.com. We want to thank our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, my partner here, John J. Raspanti, for their weekly contributions to this show, as well as our outstanding British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin. And another huge thanks to today's featured guest, Johnathon Banks, the new trainer of Gennady Golovkin. And, of course, we also thank you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience again today. Keep your chin tucked, and we will talk to you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. 'Cause it's a great